For most of human history, we've gotten really, really good at two things: creating beautiful art and finding new ways to kill each other. Before we had bullets and bombs, that second category got seriously weird. We're talking weapons that were as brilliant as they were absolutely terrifying.
Okay, I want you to picture this. You're on an ancient battlefield. What's the absolute scariest thing you could possibly face? A giant warrior with a huge axe? Maybe a sky full of arrows about to rain down on you? Just think about it for a second.
Yeah, you heard me right. A literal grenade made of pure weaponized insect rage. So welcome to the world of ancient weapons, where the rulebook was basically thrown out the window. We're going to start with how ancient armies used the world around them as a weapon. And we're not talking about, just sharpening a stick. No. We're talking about taking the absolute grossest and most painful parts of nature and turning them loose on their enemies.
The Mayan hornet bomb is just a masterpiece of brutal, simple elegance. It is exactly what it sounds like. No gunpowder, no complicated mechanics, just a pot full of very, very angry hornets. Just to give you some perspective, even today in Japan, giant hornets kill up to 50 people a year. The Mayans just figured out, hey, what if we could aim that?
So why hornets? Why not their fuzzier, friendlier cousins, the bees? Well, a bee is kind of like a one-hit wonder. It stings you, its stinger gets ripped out, and that's it. Mission over. A hornet, on the other hand, it's bigger, it's a carnivore, and it can sting you with its venom-filled stinger over and over and over again. So if you're building a weapon, who are you going to pick? Yeah, the choice is kind of obvious.
And the process itself was genius. The Mayans would use smoke to calm the hornets down enough to get them into a clay pot, seal it up, and then, right before it was go time, they'd shake it like crazy. When that pot shatters on the battlefield, it's just a cloud of pure buzzing fury exploding outwards. And get this, they would even put these things inside dummy soldiers. Imagine charging what you think is a person, swinging your sword, and instead of a clean kill, you get a face full of nightmare fuel.
So you're probably thinking, it can't possibly get any worse than weaponized hornets. Oh, but it can. It can get so much worse. Because naturally, the next step in early biological warfare was, well, poop.
The ancient Scythians were absolute masters of this, and they weren't just flinging it around. They were creating this horrifying poison cocktail for their arrow tips. And here's the truly messed up part. You didn't even need a direct hit. A tiny little scratch from one of these arrows, and you were done for. We're talking a guaranteed, nasty infection that would lead to a slow, agonizing death. Brutal.
And this wasn't just a one-time gross idea. Nope. Over in ancient China, they had the gu, or ghost arrow. These were basically giant metal jacks, slow-cooked in this disgusting stew of poison and, yep, more feces. They'd just scatter them all over the place for soldiers or horses to step on. Imagine that on the deck of a ship. Terrifying.
Okay, let's just take a breath here. We've got hornet grenades, we have poison poop arrows. You've got to be thinking, that's it, right? That is the absolute peak of battlefield insanity and disrespect.
Oh, you would be so wrong, because the next category of weapons moves away from the gross-out tactics and into some of the most bizarrely clever contraptions ever made.
So now we're moving into a whole new category. This is where the sheer bizarre ingenuity of ancient inventors really shines. It's less about brute force and more about solving very specific problems in the most clever and, well, deadly ways imaginable. So back in 16th century China, there was a huge problem with Japanese pirates. They had these massive two-handed swords that would just slice right through regular spears. So what do? You invent the wolf brush, a massive 16-foot-long bamboo pole with a spear on the end, and every single little branch tip is dipped in deadly poison. And this is my favorite part. You didn't need years of training. You didn't have to be some kind of martial arts master. Your job, literally, was to just waggle a giant 16-foot poisonous stick in the general direction of the bad guys. I mean, talk about a simple and effective solution for an army of conscripts. And you know what? It totally worked.
Okay, so we've gone from a giant stick to something that looks like it was ripped straight out of a fantasy video game. Meet the Urumi from India. It's got a normal sword handle, but the blade, well, it's not a blade. It's a set of long, super flexible steel ribbons that move just like a whip.
Now, using this thing was the definition of high risk, high reward. On one hand, a master could create this spinning whirlwind of death that was almost impossible to block. I mean, it would literally wrap around a shield. But on the other hand, one wrong move, and you're slicing off your own foot. It's no wonder this was the absolute last weapon they taught you how to use. All right, deep breaths, because this one is absolutely wild. The Tian Bing Jian, or Heavenly Soldier Arrow. This is basically an ancient drone strike. It's a huge kite, like 9 feet long, and it's carrying a payload of 100 rocket-powered arrows and a bunch of bombs. They'd fly it over an enemy camp at night, completely silent, with a long, slow-burning fuse. But wait, because if a remote-controlled, timed aerial assault wasn't enough, they had a darker version, the kamikaze model. They would literally strap a death row inmate to the kite. It was a one-way mission. Fly over the enemy and manually aim and drop all the explosives. Just a truly chilling piece of military innovation.
All right, so we've covered personal weapons. Now let's scale things up. I mean, way up. We're talking about massive siege engines, where pure engineering genius meets terrifying destruction.
And who better to talk about than one of the greatest minds in all of human history, Archimedes. When the Romans were laying siege to a city, Syracuse, he didn't just design better catapults. No, he designed the claw, a colossal crane on the city walls with a gigantic grappling hook.
The way this thing worked was just brutal and brilliant. A Roman ship gets a little too close to the walls, and bam, this giant claw drops down, hooks onto the ship, and then the whole crane just lifts the ship right out of the water. People are screaming, falling overboard, and then they just let it go, dropping it, smashing it, flipping it over. It's pure applied physics as a weapon of terror.
But here's the thing. There's a deeply tragic irony to the story of the ancient world's greatest weapons designer. It really highlights that age-old clash between brilliant minds and, well, brute force. So, when the Romans finally broke through the walls, the general gave a specific order: capture Archimedes alive. His brain is too valuable. But the soldier who burst into his study had no idea who this old man was, just drawing circles in the sand. And Archimedes, completely absorbed in his work and annoyed by the interruption, basically told the guy, "Hey, get out of here, you're messing up my diagrams." The soldier, feeling disrespected, killed the greatest mind of his generation right there on the spot.
And that just leaves you thinking, doesn't it? From Archimedes and his claw to Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb, we have always asked our most brilliant people to create our most terrible things. So what does that say about us? What does it say about the very nature of genius and the real price we all pay for conflict?